This video will show you how to use a slump mold to make your own clay mask. Hi guys, today I want to tell you about plaster molds. The project in particular will be making a mask mold using this mold right here. And it'll give you the basic shape of a face that you'll then be able to decorate. But to start off, you'll need clay, rolling pin, probably a needle tool, your mat, and 2 pieces of just regular paper towels. So first we want to roll a flat slab. We want clay that's probably in the medium side, so not too firm, not too squishy. So we're going to use our rolling pin. Roll it a couple of times, flip it over. Roll it a couple of times, flip it over. Don't forget that I want to get my clay to between 1 and 2 pencils thick, or 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 an inch. And the size that I'm actually aiming for is about the size of a piece of paper with rounded edges, because as you can see, that's about the size of the mold. Alright, now that I have my slab where I want it, I'm going to gently place it into the mold. The problem with the mold is that while it is relatively sturdy, your fingernails can scratch it up, and that causes 2 problems. It messes up your mold, and any scratched up plaster particles that wind up in the clay can potentially cause explosions later. It can be either smaller explosions or bigger explosions, but as you know, both of those are issues. So be very careful when you're using the mold. So I'm going to take my slab. I have about 1/4 inch thick. I'm going to gently lay it, being careful with my nails. And just like the name implies, I'm pressing into the mold. And sometimes there will be areas that feel thinner, like I've already ripped where my chin is, right there. So I'm gonna add a little bit of extra clay. I know for this mold in particular, where the nose is and where the chin is tends to be weaker spots, so I'm gonna add a little bit extra clay there as well. And then this extra clay in the edges would look ugly, so I'm gonna take it and rip it. Again, being careful with my nails. But you wanna pull it perpendicular of the mold. Alright, now you see I have it smoothed in and packed in. If we had more time, then I could let this sit for a few hours, and this plaster would absorb the moisture away from the clay, and then I'd be able to pop it out. We don't really have that time, so what I do instead with our classes is I take 2 paper towels and lay them into the mask. The reason I use 2 is because the moisture on that clay is going to go on that first paper towel, and then the moisture from this clay I'm about to use to pack into it will go into that second towel, so it'll be able to slip out easier. Again, I'm being careful with my nails. Alright, now I have that face completely packed in, and I have the 2 layers of paper towel separating it. Now comes the tricky part. Again, be careful with your fingernails. Sometimes it helps just to slide the base out by itself. And then the face comes out afterwards. As you can tell, it looks like I kind of lost my nose a little bit, so I think I'm actually going to try and refix that real quick. And gently lay it in, and then where that nose is, I'm going to press even harder. So now I have a nice face that I can cut into, and I'll know when I hit paper towels that I've cut all the way through and I don't have to keep on cutting. And after I scratch and slip different things onto it, cut things out, and I have it where I like it, let it dry out a little bit for a day, and then you'll pop it off this base. If you leave the base on to let it completely dry, it gets really tricky to get it off, so I don't recommend that. And after you pop the face off, that clay that we have packed underneath there, we're gonna recycle it. We don't waste any clay. Yep, and that's it for your face mold. I'll show you a couple other mold types. All right, we just did this plaster mold using the slump method, but you don't just have to have plaster molds to do the slump method. There are other ways you could possibly do it. You could really take any sturdy object, like a bowl, and if it's non-porous, which means it doesn't absorb water easily, like plastic is, then you need to do a layer of saran wrap to make sure it doesn't stick to your bowl, because then you wouldn't be able to take it off later. But what you could do is you could lay slabs of clay down on this and scratch and slip them onto each other. Like this example I here have is of a flower. So all this is 6 of these little heart shapes that were added on top of that circle shape. So I would have cut out that circle shape first and then laid my petals down and then laid my other petals down on top of it. And that nice curve out happens because it was hitting the table. So this is another way to do slump method. And then another thing I wanted to add was about plaster molds themselves. While in my classroom we only use them for slump method, there are plaster casts used in more of the commercial sense of ceramics, and also if the artist wanted to make a lot of the same piece. So what would happen then is that you would have a plaster mold that looks kind of like this. This is for a little watering can. What you would do is you would take it, put it together, wrap really big rubber bands on top of them, and then you would pour liquid, really liquefied clay into it and let it sit for a few hours, depending on what kind of liquid slip it is. And then after a while, you would pour it out. What would happen is because this plaster is absorbing that moisture, it would have a shell around it. If you've ever seen how they make chocolates, it's a similar method of they'll leave a skin behind, so you'll have the shape of that watering can that's left behind. And so a lot of the ceramics, the mass manufactured ceramics you have, are made with this method. But professional artists also use it when they want to replicate pottery or ceramics in the same kind of shape again and again. So those are all valid ways to use them. I just wanted to mention that. And thank you for your time today. As a side note, the plaster bat that we use to wedge clay, that guy, he's also made out of plaster. That's why you shouldn't scratch it with your fingernails, or else we're gonna have problems.